All right, so this is how you make deer bacon. I have a mix here. On the right side is my ground venison. On the left side is ground pork butt. I use the Bearded Brothers Venison Bacon kit you just saw. Comes with enough to make 25 pounds. I got 6.5 pounds each here. I'm adding the seasoning. You measure out for 12 pounds. Again, left side is the pork, right side is the venison ground meat I already had. It's a great way to use up ground venison that you have in the freezer. Again, I ground up a pork butt to add the pork meat to it. I'm going to mix that here in a minute once I finish adding the seasoning. It also comes with a pink cure, which I'll sprinkle on here. Again, I measured out the weight. And I'm going to go ahead here and start mixing this to try to get some protein bind here, and mixing both the pork and the venison together. Just a good hand mix works fine for this process, and got the meat mixed pretty well. Then I ran the mixture back through a fine grind in my grinder so that I'm able to make a really nice loaf. Take some saran wrap and line your 9x13 cake pan. And just keep adding the meat, smashing it down and compressing it so you get a really nice loaf form. 12 pounds of meat will do 2 9x13 cake pans, just so you know for planning on your smoker and for how many cake pans you'll need. I went with the Bearded Brothers Cinnamon Swirl top coat. And so once you get everything pressed into your pan, you start adding your top coat on just like this. You want a pretty good coating here. This is what's going to give you your bark around the edge of your bacon once you put it on the smoker. So again, you want to go with a pretty generous coating here. There are different flavors. This is the first time I made it. The cinnamon swirl actually was really good. Make sure you get the edges pretty well with this coating. They say one of these bottles will do, I think, maybe 4, 6, maybe 8 loaves. I think 8's probably a little bit high on the end of the estimate. I would say probably more like 6 loaves. Again, here it is all sealed up. We're going to cover it with more saran wrap, and then it goes in the fridge for 24 hours to cure. Take it out of the fridge, take the top off, get your grill or smoker mat ready. Then you flip it upside down on the grill mat. It slides right out because you lined it with the cellophane or the saran wrap. Also keeps things nice and clean. You peel that off of the loaf, and then you're going to get your top coat ready once again, and you're going to seal all the remaining edges with the top coat. Again, I'm going with the Bearded Brothers Cinnamon Swirl, and we're going to continue to put a very generous coating on the loaf of the venison bacon. Again, ensuring we're getting right to the edges of the loaf. And then I'll come back here and sprinkle the edges and the sides. I put some in my hand and kind of pat it along the edge of the loaf as well, just to make sure everything's coated very thoroughly. Then we get the smoker fired up to 200 degrees. We put our loaves in there, seal them up, put the probes in, and we're trying to get the internal temperature to 150, 160 degrees. Should take about 3 hours. It was pretty cold this day. I also had an issue with one of my meat probes, so I got them up to almost 200 degrees, which might have been a little bit overdone, but I don't mind because the outer layer bark actually turned out incredible. I like that it was a little bit extra firm. So that makes for a nice loaf. Take them out of the smoker, and then we're going to put them in the fridge for 24 hours for them to continue to cool down. And you can see here when I slice them open how nice and compact the loaf itself is, which makes a wonderful piece of meat to run through the meat slicer and gives a really nice slice of bacon actually. You can see just how compressed this is. Again, by pushing this really tight down into the cake pans, it really compresses the meat on the inside. So now I get them ready to go and run them through my slicer. And man, it really makes a really nice slice. I think I had this on 2 or 3. I don't know what exact thickness that is, but it wasn't a very thick slice of bacon, and it really holds together very nicely. Again, I cut the loaf in half just so I could fit it on my slicer, and you can see the slices of bacon coming out are staying together very nicely. They're actually a really nice thickness. It's a nice mixture between the pork and the venison, and you just got to fry this up, and oh man, it tasted really good. Again, I had quite a bit of this, so then I freeze packed it to put in the freezer. 10 slices in a freeze pack, and I've got all of a sudden 12.5 pounds of venison bacon sitting in the freezer to enjoy. Easy to cook, easy to make. Enjoy.